Hello and welcome to the Edge EcoCast. Today's topic, enabling edge environments. On this event, you'll hear from experts at Flexential and Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Thank you so much for joining us on the EcoCast event produced by Actual Tech Media. If you haven't been on an EcoCast before, you should know that we at Actual Tech Media created the EcoCast, MegaCast, and Summit event series to help educate IT professionals such as yourselves about the latest and greatest in enterprise technology, to help you do it quickly and efficiently from the comfort of your home office, and to help you to learn as much as possible. We at Actual Tech Media are all former IT professionals ourselves, and so we know how tough it can be in IT to find answers to your technology challenges and problems, and so these events are here to help you solve those challenges. So we encourage questions. We want this to be educational, and at the same time, we'll have some really cool prizes to give out on the event as well. So thank you again for joining us. Before we jump into it, just a few things that you should know about the event. First off, the questions box is there on the left-hand side of the audience console. We will be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of each of today's presentations. I can call your attention to it that way. Of course, we appreciate all the good morning messages, but we also want your technical questions for today's presenters. And so keep those coming throughout the event, and we will be queuing up the best questions for the Q&A sessions. I'll also have a number of poll questions for you. Those will appear in the slides window, and we'll be sharing the results of most of those questions with you. So, we appreciate your participation in those in advance. We also want this to be a social event. You can tweet directly from the console on the bottom of your screen using the Twitter icon, and the hashtag for the event will be automatically appended. And then finally, we have some resources that are available there in the left-hand side of your audience console in the Handouts tab. There are a couple of downloads available from each of our expert presenters, so we encourage you to check those out and download those before you leave today's event. Because those won't be readily available after the presentation. So with that, I did mention some prizes. We have 3 Amazon $500 gift cards that we'll be giving out on the event today. You must be live in attendance to qualify for the drawings, and there are a number of other legal prize terms and conditions that you should be aware of. You can find those in the Handouts tab. All prize winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and we'll reach out to prize winners after the event. We have been partnering with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can reach them at gorilla.guide. They are written and produced by Actual Tech Media. These are full-length educational ebooks. They're all completely free, and we've been supporting charities through the Gorilla Guide Book Club, the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund, and One Tree Planted. So we encourage you to check out gorilla.guide for more information to download those free ebooks. I mentioned we want this to be social, so the hashtag is ATM EcoCast. Again, that will be automatically appended at the bottom of the console. If you use that Twitter icon, you can follow Actual Tech Media on Twitter and me, David M. Davis, as well. I encourage you to subscribe to all the Actual Tech Media social channels. There's the 10 on Tech podcast in the iTunes store, Facebook page, our YouTube channel where we post recordings of just about every one of the events that we run. It's a great place to subscribe and keep up to date on all the Actual Tech Media events. And then, of course, our LinkedIn page as well. Before we introduce you to today's first presenter, just a few things that I'd like to talk about to set the stage for today's topic, and then we'll do a few poll questions as well. Now, there's a statistic out there from Gartner that by 2022, more than 50% of enterprise-generated data will be created and processed outside the data center or the cloud. So where will that data be? Well, it'll be out in the edge. In some shape or form, it'll be out in the edge. And it's something that we in IT really have to keep in mind and plan for. And, there's a number of use cases out there for edge computing. Of course, there's always the traditional remote office scenarios that we've had for many years, now, being called edge to some degree. And there's remote monitoring of infrastructure, for example, oil and gas, There's predictive maintenance of all sorts of infrastructure out there. Hospital patient monitoring is a common use case. Content delivery, especially in the media and entertainment industries, is very common. Of course, mobile users and mobile data, 5G, things like that is a increasingly demanding use case for edge. And then autonomous computing of all kind. We keep talking about self-driving cars. They aren't here quite yet, but they're coming very, very quickly before we know it. And they will demand huge amounts of data and edge computing. But some of the challenges are the bandwidth constraints, latency constraints, security concerns, protecting this data out at the edge, the accumulation of data out at the edge, and control management of that data, and then simply scalability of edge computing solutions. So, we've got a great event lined up today. You'll hear from experts at Flexential and Hewlett Packard Enterprise talking about their innovations in edge computing. And I've seen some of their presentations, really cool stuff. I know we're going to learn a lot. Before I introduce you to that first presenter I mentioned, just a couple of questions for you. So I'm curious, what are your use cases for edge computing? I put up the use cases I had there on my slide in this poll question. This is a multi-select question, so I encourage you to select more than one if you have more than one use case. And I will share the results of this poll with you so you can see kind of how you stack up with your peers on today's EcoCast, who are obviously also interested in edge computing and have edge computing use cases as well. So if you don't see the poll question in the slides window there, just refresh your browser. 99% of the time that fixes any sort of problem like that. Again, this is a multi-select question. Feel free to select more than one. Also, the last option there is other not listed. So if it's not listed, just drop it in the questions box because I will share that with everyone on the audience. I'm curious myself to see, kind of what I missed on the poll and what could be added to future polls. So drop that in the questions box and I will share it. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to that poll question. Let me go ahead and share the results now. And it looks like, 65% said traditional remote office use cases. When I was an IT manager, we had about 80 remote offices, so I'm very familiar with that use case today. 43% said mobile users. So obviously we all have mobile devices in our hand, in our pocket, and the data and power consumption of those mobile devices continues to increase. Followed by, 22% content delivery, 20% predictive maintenance, 13% other not listed. So, drop those in the questions box there, and I will share those with everyone on the audience. Appreciate your responses to that poll. And here's another poll, and this is kind of a fun poll. CEO of Actual Tech Media, Scott Lowe, has been asking us to run this poll on a couple of events because we kind of want to hear, as we run more and larger virtual events, do you out there in the audience really care about some of these entertainment segments that I know a lot of events, whether they're in-person conferences or online virtual events, do? Could be a band, could be a comedian, could be a actor, someone like that, not necessarily related to the technology or the topic, but they're really there more for entertainment and to kind of get people's eyes to come to the event or register for the event. So we're curious, what are your thoughts? Are these effective? Do you care? Do you want it? Does it make a difference? Or are you just there for the technology? So I'll give you a moment to answer that as well. And I will share the results of this. Charlie, out there in the audience, thank you for your feedback. Charlie said, I appreciate the break from the business side of things. Great feedback. All right, let me share the results of this one with you as well. And 39% said they're awesome, big driver to my decision to attend. 39% said I can take it or leave it. And 21% said I really don't want it. If I want entertainment, I'll go to YouTube or Netflix or whatever. So interesting feedback. Thank you for sharing the results of that, or thank you for sharing your opinion on that. And then last poll here, and that is, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company, specifically around edge computing? If you're on the event today, you're obviously interested in edge computing, and so kind of, what's your time frame for doing something in this area? All right. Thank you, everyone who responded to that poll question. We do appreciate it. It's now time to kick off the EcoCast with our first presenter. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Tim Parker, Senior Vice President of Network Strategy at Flexential. Tim, are you there?
I am. Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely.
I'm excited
Thanks for being on.
Also. Yeah.
Excellent. Take it away.
Great. So today we're going to kind of explore the local edge data center solutions, and really what we've done from a company standpoint at Flexential is looked at where we can continue to expand the ecosystem and grow that solution set for all of our customers, those who want to get out to the edge and those who want to have a hybrid edge solution. So we're going to go through some stuff today. We're going to talk a little bit about Flex Anywhere, the offer that we have, and then we're going to get into what the edge really means to us, and then how it can help you both grow your business and help your customers better. So as you all are aware, today's IT environments are just highly dynamic. The technology is advancing so fast, the complexity is getting greater. Workloads are larger and more distributed, whether they're in the hyperscalers or they're back out in local prem. And then, of course, end user expectations are much higher. We're a very impatient society, so we really want instant gratification, and we want data right away. And that means the role of IT's leader has expanded to cover a vast array of different technologies and different solutions. And at Flexential, we really believe that we should be the stewards of empowering your digital journey. We have a 40 data center footprint across the U.S. We connect them all with a multi-100 gig backbone. We have cloud services, multiple services in there, but the real reason we do all of that is because we know that a customer just doesn't want colo space and power. They want all of that ecosystem of whether they're connecting to the cloud regions, or they have DR type of services, or they have the IP internet services that they need. And it all becomes this giant ecosystem that we're continuing to evolve and grow. And we do that under what we call our Flex Anywhere fabric and platform. It's really this platform that's designed to bring services to you in a secure, private manner. We know that network is now as critical as power. If nothing has ever, been more apparent, it's during the pandemic when folks are now remote, working from home, accessing everything from shopping to work-related tasks to online schooling, et cetera. The network is now in its heyday of being able to deliver those services. And we've always felt that, and we've been doing this for several years. And so we built this software-defined network suite of connectivity services that makes it easy for you to consume it. We have 4 fundamental services that everything lays on top of, and that's our data center interconnect, which is really a transport layer connection between the different sites. We have internet bandwidth with automated DDoS scrubbing to protect you all the time. There's no charge on that. We add it into our blend. We have cloud connectivity, which is, that's where everybody's going. Everybody in the industry, 50 to 60% of enterprises will have at least some type of cloud connectivity strategy this year, and then the rest of them will follow suit. But it's a hybrid solution that really works, and so that's why we give you that connectivity, so part of your workloads can be out there and back. And then, of course, we have virtual cross-connect, which is really just bringing services to you over our backbone. And so network-enabled co-location, we talk about our 100 gig plus MPLS national backbone, and we have 2 key services that are really popular, and that's our internet bandwidth. It's got, network pops and major carrier hotels. It's a tier 1 service provider architecture. We actually have, backbone engineers that have built this. We don't take an engineer that's been doing data center type services and ask them to do this. It's a premium blend. It's got that DDoS scrubbing I talked about. We use a lot of traffic analytics, whether it's Kimtech or Thousand Eyes or other services out there to help us manage our traffic. And we really push this Anycast solution so that your traffic hits our private backbone at the closest location to the customer or closest location to your users. And we guarantee 100% uptime. And we come back with that all sits on top of this service we call Data Center Interconnect, or that transport layer service. It's that L2 virtual connectivity, just like a giant cross connect. We've got 600 terabits of point-to-point capacity. It's private, secure, consistent latency, multiple ways to failover. We can support 100 meg to 10 gigs and up. And then we have access to all those international subsea cables. Where you get into Asia Pac, or you need to get to South America. And we'll continue to expand that as we continue to grow. Over 20 peering exchanges, because we're in all the major carrier hotels, as you can see from the map. And we've got that ability to scale and increase or decrease your bandwidth at any time within a matter of days versus weeks that it would take if you had a carrier solution. And then, of course, everyone needs cloud connectivity, as I talked about. And so we provide a very high level service of cloud connectivity. We have multiple on-ramps. We don't put them in every single data center. Our idea is to put them in regions so that we use our backbone to get you to the closest on-ramp that then can get you to those hyperscalers, whether AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, et cetera. And we do that across our backbone. If we have an on-ramp locally, it's just a cross-connect away. If it's as I mentioned, if it's not in your local data center, because we have 40 data centers out there, we just use our backbone to get you on like a virtual cross-connect. It's all scalable, can increase and decrease bandwidth anytime, and it's 100% uptime to that on-ramp point. So again, our goal is to make connectivity easy for you. But now we're moving into a new era, right? I mean, now we've solved the data center problem, the interconnection problem. We bring host of services to everybody that's in our colo, but now this thing called the edge is out there. And to understand the edge, we're going to go through a little bit of high level, and then we're going to talk about some specific use cases and how we at Flexential have used our Flex Anywhere platform to really bring interconnection out to the edge. And a delay of 10 milliseconds in an email, I mean, sometimes I wish the delay would be 10 minutes sometimes to give me time to catch up on email. Isn't really noticeable, and it really isn't an issue. But when you start looking at that same lag or that same delay in a connected camera, sensor, healthcare device, something like that, that could cripple performance, which actually cause impact to your livelihood, or even if it's a healthcare type of thing or wearable, to somebody's life or their quality of life. So we really have to overcome that. And there's only a few ways to overcome that. We're going to go through that today. So edge computing, right? It's going to be massive. I mean, you look at all the different things, whether it's Gartner, IDC, or other analysts out there, they're all telling you that it's going to be huge and massive. And over 7 million edge computing locations will service edge applications over the next 3 years. That's huge. I mean, we're looking at, a couple thousand data centers right now to multiply that by, millions and millions of edge compute locations. That means we've really got to get on the ball to understand what's going on and then take advantage of it to improve our businesses and to improve our ability to service our customers. And that network-enabled modular data centers, sometimes called EDCs, MDCs, tower data centers, they're all small, but they're going to house those applications due to location and network adjacencies, especially for those low latency sensitive apps, right? I mean, those are the ones that really are going to benefit from it, and those that need to integrate with 5G and RAN and all of the different technologies that are going to bring cellular services back in need to be closer to the edge to really be super effective. And many of those applications are going to require higher quality upstream to data centers. As I mentioned, as we're going to go through, those data centers are small, so you've got to have that connectivity option back to the hyperscalers, back to larger compute environments. And it brings us to the thing that edge is going to be part of our future, but the enablement of edge to core connectivity is really the key. And as we mentioned earlier, if you look on the left-hand side, your core is still going to have big data, batch analytics, data warehousing, machine learning, archival storage, all of the high security stuff that has to sit out there is still going to be in your core data centers. But out at the edge, you're going to move your real-time data processing, your low latency communications to all those IoT devices, sensors, AI, all of that stuff's going to sit out there. And, but it's got to have that efficient communication back and forth, and it's got to be able to offload from the cloud, right? So all of that plays part of this ecosystem, which is really where we come in to help the edge players and the customers bring a service together that actually, puts all that and makes it easy for you as a consumer. Why are we doing that? It's really latency does matter for next generation experiences. At the core, you're okay with having 50, 60 milliseconds to get to a large hyperscaler that's in, possibly, Eastern Oregon and you sit over in Denver. But that doesn't work when we start talking about the local edge and how we get to gaming and autonomous transportation and healthcare and, immersive experiences like AR and VR and, all of that stuff starts to really demand that we have a lower latency. And of course, that on-prem, which is really your mobile device or your car, or some of that will have that ultra low latency. But when you look at it, it all works together. And so we continue to stress the point that it's, understanding your application, understanding what your latency tolerances are, but knowing that customers are going to demand more from us and they're going to want things immediately. And so that means we have to get closer to the edge. And when we start thinking about key segments, use cases, and tech drivers, we've done a lot of research. And so I'm part of the innovation office at Flexential. We do a lot of work with partners and even some competitors, and we really sit there and look at where this, the customer's going to come from the edge. And we try to get it down to a couple, but we realized that there really was 7 key segments in there. Your smart cities and your campuses, and some of those all have, a need. They want to, manage both safety and efficiency, and they want to find ways to make their cities more efficient and easy to live in, et cetera. You've got retail and lodging. Of course, they're looking at ways to improve their revenue and how to, really help their customers and understand the demographics and, contactless payments. All of that stuff is coming, especially now with the pandemic. And then you add entertainment and gaming immersive. This is one that I think has actually seen a big demand since we went into kind of the pandemic era, and that's where people want to still have those same experiences, and they want to see them live, or they want to be able to do that, but you've got to have a low latency. And you don't want to be in the middle of gaming or in the middle of watching a game and know that you're 10, 15 seconds behind. You want to be right there. And so that requires, again, low latency. Industry always gets me excited. I can think about that, but the one good example and use case is water conservation. So in Northern California, a group of MIT engineers helped farmers up there figure out that they could grow the same yield of rice with 40% less water. That's a huge savings in a very critical, very finite resource, which is the water that they had. And so now all of a sudden they can use sensors and everything to do that crop management, and that's just going to expand. But you don't have data centers that sit out in these agriculture areas. So somehow or another, you're going to need to be able to ingest that and make smart decisions, and just continue to make improvements on how we manage that. Of course, healthcare, wearables, and I'm not talking about your Apple Watch wearable all the time. I'm talking about real healthcare wearables that actually manage health, whether it's diabetes or heart monitors or some of those things are really critical. The latency and the time is critical. We all know about transportation. We know a car travels 60 feet in a second, so you can't have something going back to a large hyperscaler to make a decision, and that's why you hear some of these environments where people are doing smart calls are demanding that we get compute closer to them, in areas that you don't have large hyperscalers. And of course, social media, edge, CDNs, they're all pushing to get closer into some of these rural areas to be able to, again, offload content and to be able to integrate with the 5G. And you've seen it. You've seen all the purchases, Microsoft going out there to purchase things that are going to help them integrate with 5G, Amazon, et cetera. It's all coming together. They're all different, but they all have a couple different things that are critical to them. And so that architecture to support that data center apps really kind of follows this flow, right? You've got your core data centers, as we talked about, those large, low-cost areas like the ones in Eastern Oregon or Eastern Washington or out in, the Carolinas. These things are huge facilities. They're very cost-effective. They've got racks and racks of compute in them, and they're multi-megawatt type of facilities, but they can't be everywhere. And so now you have to move into the metro data centers, and that's where Flexential is, right? We're in those metro data centers in the smaller, large markets, like, whether it's the tier 1 markets or out into the dimmer type of markets, those things. And then from there, we want to distribute that further as we continue to grow out into where we're, out there very distributed and decentralized. And that's kind of the future of how we're doing this. So small installations across the U.S., very effective for popular content, dramatic bandwidth savings as you get your data out there. And really that latency thing still plays a key role. So looking at this diagram on top, it looks pretty simple, but there are a lot of complexities, and we're going to continue to dig deeper into it as we go forward. Of course, the benefits of distributed infrastructure, they seem simple, and I call it kind of my sandwich. And if you think about it, data speed, low latency performance, and increased performance and lower latency is key. And that's sandwiched by proximity. The only way you're going to improve latency is get closer to those users, closer to the enterprises out there in proximity, which actually allows them to gain that lower latency and to offset some of their costs. And then it follows through with all the meat in the middle, which is flexibility, scalability, security, reliability. People demand that. And so we still have to solve those problems while making sure we can address the 2 major requirements. So how do we approach it at Flexential? Here's our solution overview. Here's how we're going forward. Here's how we've partnered with American Tower and how we're working with other companies to go out there and really build solutions that are going to do this. So we designed a Flexential Local Edge, right? That solution is really the ability to make small deployments of a network compute out there, and it's part of a developing ecosystem that'll promote Flexential as a leader in hybrid edge. But more important, it's going to help drive future business opportunities with customers that have a demand and a need to be out closer to their customers or out closer to the deployments. I'm really excited about it because it's taking the next step of expanding not only our network presence, but expanding our ability to service our customers who want to have those things that we've talked about earlier. It's very simple. This is a quick architecture overview. It's really out there designed to bring traffic and connectivity from the edge through FlexLE back to our Flex Anywhere platform of those high quality, very high availability routers in those major POPs that actually brings all of that service back to a customer. And our approach to the local edge looks very complex. And I've had people say, wow, this is a busy diagram, but I like it that way for one reason. I think it's very important for people to understand that it is complex. And to make it work, you've got to have a lot of interconnection capabilities. You've got to be able to service a lot of different use cases. And you've got to be able to really bring that traffic to and fro the core. And, we talked about it a couple of times, whether it's on a local prem or it's in an edge data center sitting out at the base of a tower servicing multiple areas of a region, or if it's out in a third-party data center that's actually bringing that traffic back in. It's all tied to our Flex Anywhere platform that allows us to bring all of the different features and all of the different services that customers demand nowadays to them over one single platform. And it's kind of like the easy button. It's just you join, you connect to the fabric, and we are in a good spot now to support and help you. And so our service offering through that, right? We've got rack space power, just like you would expect in any data center. Smaller footprint, but it's there to really help you. Most of the edge data centers are going to be 10 to 12 racks at the most, maybe 15 kilowatts per rack at the most. Most of the time they're looking to sell quarter or half cabs and to be able to get a lot of customers in there, because putting a large compute in those data centers isn't what we want. We want those small computes that can connect back. But it's still the same type of process of going out and getting your rack space power and your cross connect. So then we've layered on this managed connectivity solution. And really the idea around there is to bring you the edge internet with all the DDoS scrubbing. Everybody wants a presence and that ability to connect to your customers out at the edge. The edge tunnels or the L2 transport we talked about, and the hyperscale connectivity. So bringing that out to the customers at the edge is key for them to be able to have a full distributed environment. And then other services as we go through that, remote hands, just like you would expect to, preventative maintenance, and then future DRAS storage and bare metal services. And bare metal services is automatically getting a higher demand than we anticipated, and we'll be rolling that out faster than we even thought, because people want to be able to spin up and spin down services right at the edge without having to worry about taking their own hardware or their own techs to go out there and build it. So in summary, as we go through what we just went through, and I know I speak really fast, so hopefully everybody caught as much information as they can, but really the wave for the edge is here. We're right on the cusp of catching that wave, and so we need to be aggressive when we move forward, whether it's you as a consumer or us as a provider. We've got to get in front of it, and it's going to be massive, and it's part of our future, and it's here now. We haven't hit the hockey stick, but if anything, over the last probably 2 months, we are on the cusp of acceleration that you would never imagine. And it's really important because its latency does matter for all these next generation applications. They're demanding it from us, and the only way to do that is to get closer to the customers and get a distributed infrastructure that has all those benefits out there to where the people are going to consume that data. Interconnect from the edge of the core is critical, as we talked about. You've got to have that connectivity because you can't store all your data out there. You can't do your big analytics and stuff out at the edge. It just doesn't have the space and power to manage that. But you certainly can from a Flexential data center or a core data center or your hyperscalers as you go forward. And then we make that easy. That's what we're really working on. Our Flex Anywhere software-defined network is really designed to make it easy for customers to consume connectivity and to be able to have all access to all the services they want. And then our partnership with American Tower just makes it a great solution for that AI, IoT, and edge deployments that are out there. It really puts us in a driver's seat to help customers get closer to the edge. And so, it's part of our strategy. Go beyond four walls. Stop thinking of just a core data center as being the only solution. Start thinking about how you're going to distribute, how you're going to have other services, whether it's interconnection services or cloud services or any of those things that we can offer. It's a goal of Flexential. Let's go help the customers be successful with a host of managed services. That's it. That's what we have today. It's exciting times. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think, if you look at some of the studies out there, it says 1 in 5 enterprises will have an edge deployment in the next year. That means that we have to be on top of that because there's a lot of enterprises, but there's not a lot of edge capabilities currently existing, but there will be by the end of 2021. All right.
Excellent presentation, Tim. It's really cool what you guys are doing there at Flexential when it comes to edge. So much innovation, so many really cool use cases that you talked about. So let's take some questions from the audience. And while we do that, I'll just bring up this poll. I want to call everyone's attention to that poll in the slides window that says, what additional information would you like about the Flexential solution? I see a couple questions coming in here about pricing and licensing, things like that. Probably be good to check the pricing details on the slides window there in the poll. Let's see, George said he'd like to try the solution for himself. So George, I encourage you to check that out. Next question that I see that came in here in the queue is, can you give me an idea of the latency difference between a core deployment and a metro or local edge instance?
I certainly can. I think, if we go back to one of the slides that we talked about on the latency, those, depending on where you're at in the U.S., but let's just take you in the central part of the U.S., whether it's Denver or, Salt Lake or Nashville or some of those, you could have upwards of 50 milliseconds between a core deployment and where your customers sit. But when you get out to the edge, we're talking under 10 milliseconds. That's our goal, is to start to service all of the U.S. And we've done a ton of work with latency arcs and overlaying all of the different locations we can drop edge data centers. And our goal is to be able to saturate the U.S. with these 10 milliseconds and less type of latency solution so that you can distribute your compute to where your customers are. And we'll work with you on defining where your customer bases are. That's why we use Kentek and some other things, so we can actually start to track where your traffic's coming from and then get out to those customers.
Excellent. Wow, 10 milliseconds. That's fast. Next question, what industries do you think should be considering their edge strategy today, and what are the risks if they wait too long?
That's a great question. We've tried to narrow that down tighter, and as I showed the 7 segments that are out there, it really comes down to your business functions and your user base. But I think the ones that are really critical are any of those that are doing IoT or AI type of manufacturing heavily benefit from it. But the host of industries are really across the board, and so it really comes down to what type of resources and how you're going to manage it. But the ones that I see really active right now are all of those that are in that immersive experience, whether it's gaming or entertainment or online betting, any of that stuff where they need to have real live video or they have latency. I always used to, I'm a gamer myself, and I used to coin the phrase that latency kills, because if you're in one of those first-person games and you get a lag or a latency issue, you're suddenly done. And so if you add the amount of extra data that's coming in with, all the virtual reality and everything, you cannot afford an additional 20 milliseconds of latency.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point. And I mean, I guess you could say latency kills in some of the other scenarios too, like patient monitoring in hospitals and autonomous self-driving cars, and yeah.
Yep. So, and even in retail, point. I mean, you look at it, I mean, in a couple of the different conferences last year when we were going to conferences, there was a lot of folks showing really retail where you could walk up and look at clothing, how it fit on you through almost like a virtual mirror, right? And so you have that ability to do stuff. But if you can't capture the customers want to own that right away, we when I was working at PayPal, we used to say customers are impatient, and so if they wait more than 3 seconds, they abort. And so you've got to be able to catch them while they're like, wow, I like that, I'm going to just buy it. And so from a retail standpoint, it could be the livelihood of the company by not getting a mobile point of sale out closer to the customer, especially nowadays where people are still adverse to going into the big malls or going to the big department stores, and they much rather would have something in their neighborhood where they could go do a point of sale and have it delivered to them. That's why Amazon has made tons of money during the pandemic, because we don't want to go into to shop personally as much.
Absolutely. Yeah, good points. Let's see. Here's another question I see that came in there. They're saying, for those planning to invest in edge computing, what are the key network services that they really need to keep in mind?
I had it outlined earlier. You've got to have that connectivity back to the core. Edge computing is going to be, small form factor of probably quarter rack to a full rack. Maybe 10U is kind of the ones that we've been talking to folks about. But again, that's very small. So if your data starts to get large, if you're doing a lot of analytics, you're not going to be able to do it all there. So connectivity is the key. Making sure that that edge compute is connected into a highly available, very high quality data center that can provide the growth capabilities you may need, or that data center is heavily connected back to the hyperscalers or to the carriers and to the peering, so that you get all of those services you need. And that's part of our Flex Anywhere. Is we are focused around bringing that connectivity, making it easy, so you don't have to go shop around and do anything. We just provide it to our edge customers, and then we give them the opportunity to continue to pick other services they want off of that. But that interconnection is the key to everything. As we've learned, network is just as critical as your space and power.
Excellent. So, Tim, let's see. I think we're running out of time for our live Q&A. There's lots of good electronic questions coming in. Maybe you can get back to. But a final question I want to ask you is, if folks want to get started with Flexential, they're interested in edge computing, what do you recommend? What's the first step they should take?
Reach out to us. It's still very new, and there's a lot of different solutions. It's just like some of the other technologies out there. It's not one size fits all. So reach out to us. We would love to have conversations with customers on how to do that. And we're in a good spot. Customers and Flexential we're really in a good spot where we can define where the edge is going to go based on customer needs and demands. We haven't built 50 to 100 data centers out there and then wait for people to come. We want to have people tell us where to go, and then we will build it from there. So reach out to us right away. Get a call with myself or Jason Carlin, our innovation officer. We will help you find the right solution for you. And then we're excited about this. So as you can tell I just get really ramped up on this. But we really like the capability for 2021 to be the defining moment for Edge, for us to go out there and put services where customers need it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for your presentation, Tim.
Thank you. It's great.
And thank you to Flexential for presenting on the event today. Check out in the Handouts tab right there, you'll find a full Guerrilla Guide to taking data to the edge, co-written by Tim, who you just heard, and Jason Carlin from Flexential. You can download the full ebook and check it out after the event. It's really well done. Lots of diagrams, lots of graphics there, all about edge computing. So an excellent free resource that you don't want to miss before you go. And with that, it's time for our next. Hold on. Not our next presentation just yet. It's time for our prize drawing. So we've got our first Amazon $500 gift card, and that's going out to Sonia Williams from California. Congratulations. Sonia Williams from California will reach out to you to deliver that gift card. And with that, it's time for our next presentation. I'm excited to introduce Vinay Janakadu, Senior Manager for Technical Marketing at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Vinay, thank you for being on. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, David. Hey, thanks everyone for joining the session today. Today we are going to talk about HPE SimpliVity and how we enable edge environments with HPE SimpliVity. Data is growing exponentially, whether it's the edge, the core, or the cloud. And customers want the ability for the data at the edge to move to the core, or even an ability for customers to take the data at the edge directly to the cloud. And for data to move across, you need a hyper-efficient platform. and simplicity provides that hyper-efficient platform. The core of simplicity, the data virtualization platform, is our deduplication, wherein we dedupe, compress, and optimize data at inception for the lifecycle of the I/O, providing a great efficient platform for customers. The biggest benefit that customers get is a huge cost savings, not only at the data center or the edge site, but also on the WAN link where data has to move from an edge site to the core site as well. Customers also love flexibility, and simplicity provides that. Being a hyper converged infrastructure, we collapse the compute, the storage, and all of that the customers need. But customers, as they need flexibility, we provide that capability wherein you can really start from a single node. But a single node actually has inbuilt resiliency with a RAID configuration. But when customers want high availability, they can just have two simplicity nodes in a cluster. Now, as capacity increases or compute increases, you can scale them independently to a rack, multiple racks, or even we have an ability to have a stretch cluster environment wherein a customer can have multiple racks, both having all the data at any given point in time. So even if a cluster goes, even if a full rack goes down, your data is always available, providing a very flexible environment, but a highly resilient environment based on what the customer needs. With our hyper efficiency, we also provide a friction-free data production environment, wherein the deduplicated, compressed, and optimized data actually is also being taken advantage by our inbuilt data production features, wherein we make VM backup and replication easier than ever. Now, not only we do take care of your backup, but we actually have also integrated with HP Store Ones, providing a great cost benefit even for your archival purposes, wherein all the data that is being sent to Store Ones is also deduplicated. Now, why do people take backups? People take backups because if something happens in their environment, you want to be back up and running as quickly as possible. And Simplicity actually has a hyper guarantee where we guarantee that a 1 terabyte VM can be restored in less than 60 seconds. This provides a great benefit for customers to meet their RPO and RTO requirements. A great use case for Simplicity's data production feature is ransomware, wherein if a customer gets affected by ransomware, you really don't have to panic and figure out how do you recover from a ransomware. We actually have customer stories where they were able to just go to their last known good backup and restore back and get back up and running very quickly. Now, this is all good for a couple of VMs, but customers actually have hundreds of VMs wherein when a disaster happens, they're worried about how do they bring all their infrastructure back up. We actually have a natively built tool called RapidDR, which automates the whole disaster recovery process, wherein when your whole environment is up and running, you create a plan and you decide how your VM needs to be restored back on your DR side, what is the network configuration on your DR side, and when the disaster does happen, God forbid, all you need to do is a click and all your VMs are restored back to your DR site very easily, achieving your recovery time objectives. And we also have the capability to actually fail over to your primary site when the primary site is back up and running. So providing a friction-free data production and also providing a very easy way to automate your disaster recovery process. Now you must be wondering, with all the hyper efficiency and the integrated data production features, is it easy to manage Simplicity? That's really the core of what we do, is we make sure that customers actually have an efficient platform, but also very easy to manage. Everything from a single pane of glass. We actually extend the capabilities of managing your infrastructure by providing single-click operations wherein you can just log into a vCenter and all your Simplicity operations are right within your vCenter, and you actually have a lot of reporting capability, providing customers an easy way to generate reports for compliance. And Simplicity also has a great way to create policies wherein you can decide how often you want to take a backup, where you want the backup to be, and how long you want to retain a backup. And once you set a backup policy, the backup policy is applied to all the VMs coming into a data store, and you can change the backup policy at a VM level as needed, providing a very efficient way and an easy way to manage your whole replication as well as your data production capabilities. Now, managing infrastructure is important, but a lot of customers want the ability to actually maintain their infrastructure very easily. Simplicity has a capability to do a single click upgrade because we are hyper-converged infrastructure. We take care of your compute, storage, and all your data production features. You need an easy way to manage your infrastructure and maintain infrastructure on a periodic basis. So our upgrade manager upgrades your ESXi host, your firmwares, and also the OmniStack software very easily, all through a single click upgrade. Now, customers want intelligence in their systems, and HP Simplicity is integrated with HP InfoSight, where customers now get the benefit of all the InfoSight intelligence capabilities and predictive analytics, wherein we provide and manage your infrastructure and provide the ability for customers to know when your capacity is going to come to the limits. And all the capabilities that InfoSight provides for Nimble are also going to be provided with Simplicity soon. Now coming to the edge, analysts and everybody is trying to define what the edge is. But at the core of what edge is and what it's going to be in the future is going to be the location where a lot of data is going to be generated. And it's not going to be the data center. And the challenges at edge are going to be different than the challenges at the data center, wherein the data at edge is continuing to grow and will grow exponentially. But the people who are managing at the edge, you really don't have a huge IT team to manage your infrastructure. It's different than the core data centers. The other big difference is edge sites have to be very resilient, and Simplicity provides an efficient platform at the edge wherein we collapse everything that you need in a data center, and you can take the 2U appliance and put that at the edge site, making sure that your silos are collapsed. You really don't need any specialists. And also for every customer that is managing an edge site, you have a lower total cost of ownership, and you don't need a lot of maintenance at the edge sites. So Simplicity provides a great use case and a solution for edge sites. Now let's take a look at what happens at the edge and how our hyper efficiency is affecting at the edge. What we have seen is when customers are running without Simplicity, you are spending X amount. And when you're spending, and when you have Simplicity in their edge site, customers are actually seeing up to 63% cost savings. In this particular use case, wherein a customer was actually spending $368 per VM, that cost has been reduced to $141 per VM. But at a whole Simplicity infrastructure perspective, you are typically seeing about a $54,000 savings per edge site. Now think about how that explains when you have multiple edge sites, wherein the cost just grows exponentially. Now, when you're talking about a retail customer, which is really an edge site where a lot of data is being generated, as the number of sites grow, the cost savings is also going to grow exponentially. So Simplicity, because of your hyper efficiency, will provide a great cost savings, especially for the edge sites. Now, we looked at some of the core capabilities, but let's talk about what are the technical capabilities that make Simplicity the right solution for the edge. Management. We talked about the global unified management, but edge sites, wherein they are geographically distributed, all of them can be managed from a single pane of glass right from the data center. And the customer can actually create a backup policy wherein all the backups from each edge site are automatically backed up to the core site, and making sure that the hub and spoke configuration is easily managed so that you really don't need that IT admin at the edge site. Data production is built in, and it's friction free, and it also provides all the efficiency for all the data that has to be sent across, making sure that customers actually have an inbuilt data production capabilities. We talked about WAN bandwidth. Especially at the edge sites, a lot of customers today don't have the luxury of a huge pipe, And if they're sending a lot of data, because of our WAN efficiency, they get a huge benefit even on the WAN bandwidth. Another important thing that customers need is performance and also the footprint. So we actually have no tuning needed on Simplicity, making sure that performance is taken care for Simplicity customers, providing an improved and a consistent application performance of whatever workloads they're running at the edge. Recently for Edge, we actually have qualified the Simplicity platform on the milestone wherein customers are actually using Simplicity to run and do all their video recording for video surveillance in their edge sites. And another great thing that Simplicity provides is flexibility on the platforms. We actually have a 1U platform which provides customers in an edge site a small 1U system that they can put in a rack in the back of a closet in a store. And the other thing is, if customers want a lot of density, we actually have a 2600 platform wherein you can put up to 4 Simplicity nodes in a 2U platform. So depending on the customer's footprint and availability of space, we provide that flexibility without compromising on performance. We talked about how edge sites don't have an on-site support, and we need an ability to automatically recover the data if a disaster happens. So our RapidDR tool provides that ability for customers to do an automated disaster recovery, making sure that all your VMs are back up and running on your core site from your edge site if something happens on your edge site, making sure that customers' VMs are all up and running all the time. Now, all of the technical capabilities that we talked about for Simplicity, being hyper efficiency at the core, the integrated data production, and easy to manage, provide a great solution for customers to manage their edge environments. And we are actually seeing a lot of retail customers getting and taking advantage of the Simplicity platform. Now, here is a retail customer who is an outdoor sports and recreation company where they had multiple challenges in their environment. The first thing is they were maintaining and managing a complex IT stack and wanted to see how they can simplify. And also they did not have all the infrastructure needed or the space needed for that. So what we actually provided them as a solution is 2 extra small Simplicity nodes at each of their 155 stores. And we provided them the ability to manage all of that from a single site and providing an ability for them to take backups to an offsite. Now, there is great outcomes of this solution that we provide to customer, wherein the customer now has a one vendor solution, which also provided them 17% faster response time to their customers and the ability to actually have inbuilt data production feature, provided them the ability to restore VMs. And actually, we also provide the ability to restore files, all of that in a couple of seconds. And like we talked about the extrapolation of when you actually increase the number of sites, this customer is a classic example of they benefited from one site, but for all the 155 sites, the total cost of ownership is reducing significantly for the customer. So great customer success story for how they are leveraging an edge optimized infrastructure through HP Simplicity and benefiting from all the key capabilities that we provide, starting from our hyper efficiency, wherein we dedupe, compress, and optimize data at inception. And then we leverage the same dedupe data for our integrated data production features, but providing an infrastructure for them that is easy to manage and maintain, but also powered by the intelligence provided by HP InfoSight. Thank you. And now I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, great presentation, Vinay. Thank you very much. It's exciting to see what you all are doing there at HPE when it comes to edge computing. Some really cool, really innovative stuff. I brought up the poll question on the screen for everyone out there in the audience. What additional information would you like about the HPE solution? And I'll just leave that up while we do some Q&A. Vinay, you ready for some questions?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So let's see. First question that came in here I wanted to ask you is, Can you tell us, I'm not sure if you can share this, but what's the largest retail or edge customer that HPE and HPE SimpliVity has been used in?
A great question, and the biggest customer that we have is a retail store, which actually has 155 remote sites spread across all over the country, and they're leveraging SimpliVity for every one of those retail sites. So it's a huge customer that has over 600 SimpliVity nodes, and they have transferred all the retail stores with SimpliVity, and they're able to benefit from everything that SimpliVity offers: the remote management, the hyper efficiency, and also the ease of DR capabilities that we talked about today.
Excellent. Very cool. And then another question here, they're asking, what's the typical efficiency that customers are seeing with HPE SimpliVity? Is there, I mean, how do you all measure that?
Yeah, so that's again an interesting question, and every SimpliVity customer has an ability to monitor their efficiency right from their vCenter UI. And a lot of customers today are actually connected their HPE SimpliVity systems through InfoSight, wherein we can actually see the efficiency that we're getting for customers. And we have done a lot of surveys to understand how customers are benefiting from that efficiency. And interestingly enough, 1/3 of our customers are actually getting about 100:1 efficiency. And that's really a testament to the product and the technology, wherein if customers are taking backups, the backups are actually for free, and that provides a great amount of efficiency and for customers, and a lot of customers are happy with it and continuing to actually expand their data centers with SimpliVity.
Excellent. And then I know disaster recovery and data protection is a big challenge that a lot of companies face when it comes to edge computing. Does HPE have a solution for that?
Yeah, we do it two ways, right? So because we are a hyperconverged infrastructure, we are unique in the way where the data production is integrated, and all the data production features actually leverage the deduplicated data, providing customers an easy DR capability wherein they can back up to remote sites or restore from remote sites very quickly and very efficiently. We actually have a hyper guarantee which says that you can restore a 1 terabyte VM in less than a minute. That's a huge benefit. Now, we do understand that customers actually have all these DR plans for the rainy day when something happens, and they actually have to meet their RTOs, wherein they have to come back up and running as quickly as possible. So to make it actually easier for customers, we actually have a tool called RapidDR that I briefly touched upon today that automates the whole disaster recovery process. So not only do we make it efficient for customers to manage their infrastructure, but also a very easy way to do DR, but a completely automated disaster recovery process, which includes both failover and failback capabilities.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like that could help a lot of companies out there to better protect their data. And so, Vinay, I mean, if people are interested in the HPE SimpliVity edge computing solution, what's the easiest way to get started with this?
A couple of things. If you just go to HP Simply, we actually have a plethora of information, whether it's white papers, videos. If you just type HP SimpliVity on YouTube, you get a lot of videos that talk about the key capabilities that SimpliVity provides and how these benefit customers. So there's really a lot of content out there. And if anybody has any specific questions and want to follow me on Twitter, my hashtag, my Twitter ID is @jvinaymohan, and I keep on posting latest stuff that our team delivers, and get you up to speed on anything latest coming on from SimpliVity.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing there around edge computing to make this easier for companies. Vinay, thank you for your presentation. Great to have you.
Thank you.
And for more information on HPE SimpliVity, check out the PDF asset that's available for download there in your Handouts tab. It's on the Intelligent Hyperconverged Infrastructure. It's a solution brief on the HPE SimpliVity solution for more information. And with that, it's time for our final gift card announcement. we have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Jeff McIntyre from North Carolina and Naveen Dondaparty from Illinois. Naveen Dondaparty from Illinois, Jeff McIntyre from North Carolina, and our previous winner was Sonia Williams from California. Congratulations to all the prize winners. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the 10 on Tech podcast. It's over in the iTunes store. And if you are a potential sponsor of an upcoming event, we would be glad to chat with you. Just reach out to us at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And finally, I hope that you'll join us on our next EcoCast event. It's the Exploring Innovations in Networking EcoCast happening next week. Hope that you'll join us on that. After today's event, you'll be automatically redirected to our events webpage where you can register for that event and all of our other upcoming events. We appreciate your support. I hope that you learned a lot today about edge computing, how to make your edge computing environment more efficient, more secure, and more scalable, and better protected with data protection and disaster recovery. Hope that we got all your questions answered, and appreciate your support. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.